program is brought to you by P. Murphy and Associates, successfully providing IT professionals to Southern California businesses.
Hi, this is Marlene Gibbs with What Do You Do? And today's guest is Joe Nicassio. And Joe, what do you do?
What do I do? I am a sales and marketing coach. So just as amateur athletes don't have coaches and professionals do, professional business people have coaches. That's what I do.
But you do other things. So let's talk about what I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about the book, and then we'll talk about your coaching. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. You've written a book.
Yes.
You want to read the title so I can...
You want me to read the title?
I want you to read the title.
It's Resurrecting America's Entrepreneurial Spirit, and the subtitle, Practical Approach for Creating Jobs, which may sound a little bit paradoxical because entrepreneurs don't have jobs. But what I've discovered is as businesses grow, jobs are created even if it's just the job of the entrepreneur. They become self-employed. And
the whole book is about self-employment, the good part of it and the bad part of it, and how we're brought up with the spirit killers and the spirit builders.
Yes.
You have two parts of it. Do you want to explain the two parts of what a spirit builder is and what a spirit killer is?
Sure. Well, let me kind of give you the genesis of where it came from.
Okay.
So, going back, I was in a room of people there was 50 people in the room. They all had bachelor's, master's, and PhDs. And they all had one thing in common. They were all unemployed.
Right.
And I asked them, how many of you would like to own your own business? And about 60% of the hands went up. And then I asked, how many of you would like to how many of you are afraid of starting your own business?
Every hand went up.
Every hand went up. And I thought that was a real problem because from a young age, I was around entrepreneurs, and I got a taste of entrepreneurship, but my family encouraged me to go to school and get an education and get a job, like so many people do. So that being in front of those people planted a seed in my brain that there was something wrong. If 100% of the people that were highly educated were afraid of starting their business, then something was just wrong. I mean, it just wasn't right. So I thought about it that unemployment is solved by jobs, and jobs are created by thriving businesses.
Right.
And thriving businesses come from entrepreneurs, but not just anybody that's got an idea. They have to be inspired entrepreneurs. And I realized that there are forces in our world that kill the spirit, and there are things that need to do to replace that to build the spirit. And so that's the genesis of where the spirit killers and the spirit builders comes from. And so I spent quite a bit of time brainstorming and thinking about this, meditating, praying. What are the spirit killers? And I came up with 21 different ones.
Yes, and the ones you start at the beginning. I want to start with the ones that, and my generation had that. You don't go into business for yourself. You go to college, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, and you stay in that job forever.
Yeah, that's...
that was the one. That was big. And of course, this was the 60s, and I was a woman, so we still had all the jobs that you couldn't get anyway because you were a woman. Actually, most of the women would have been better off going into their own businesses.
Absolutely.
In the 60s, really. But that was almost a no-no, too.
Well, it used to be a truth. It used to be a truth that if you had a good education, it was, not only was it a truth, it was a promise. If you get this education, we promise you there'll be a job on the other side. And it used to be the truth, and now it's a big fat lie.
Right. And you explain that in the book, so do you want to explain it to me and the audience?
Yeah. So the shift that we need to make to build the spirit is to not tell children, go to school, get an education, and get a job. We need to tell them, go to school, get an education, get a job, or start your own business. We need to plant that seed at a very early age that America is the land of opportunity and you can start your own business and succeed here. But if you program your children to go get a job, they will never be entrepreneurs.
Right, right. You said something about that we have to learn to market ourselves as freelancers, because we're going to be in and out of the job market, working for a lot of different companies. So in a way, we're self-employed anyway.
Oh, well, I'll take that even further.
Okay, you know, I thought that was so important, because you could have all these people with their PhDs. I remember when my husband and I were in business, we worked with the man. We did. And he couldn't talk to people. I mean, he was the type, he was brilliant, but we had to keep him in a room separated because he would insult people.
That's not good.
He had no, well, that's why we, you know, made sure that he didn't really have much conversation, because that is not good. But yet he had 2 or 3 doctorates under his belt.
Well, and don't you find something wrong that if somebody has that much education, that they can't sell themselves? I mean, isn't there something wrong with this picture that somebody's highly educated and yet they can't function? They can't function in the world, really.
He was very controlling, and he had horrible communication skills, and everything was his way. You know, it was not a good situation. It was not a good situation.
Right. So
I mean, you know, looking back, I would never have somebody working for me. I don't care how brilliant they are. That causes too much conflict everywhere else.
And communication should be part of our education and training, don't you think?
Right, right. So, I mean, yeah, that was very important.
So it's a failure of the education system, the way I see it. But I want to, so everyone is self-employed, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit. I actually believe there is no such thing as unemployment. Let me explain. Okay, if you have a business and you have 100 customers and you lose a customer, then you have 99 customers and you're still in business. Mm-hmm. If you have a job, by definition, you have 1 customer. Now, that's what's called putting all your eggs in one basket. If you lose that job, your income goes from fixed to 0.
Right.
Now, when you're unemployed, you're still self-employed with no customers. So everybody is self-employed. And there really isn't an excuse for unemployment in America when anybody can provide service and value to another human being in exchange for money.
So you're telling people that they can even start these small service businesses.
Yes.
And get customers.
Yes, many people have done it. You can start a house cleaning business. Do you know anybody that has dirty houses, especially after a Super Bowl party or any kind of events? People that have dirty offices. Do you know anybody that maybe needs a handyman or somebody that can do some fix-it-up services? Do you know anybody that maybe would like some rooms painted, some walls painted? These are things that you can do without coming up with hundreds of thousands of dollars. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to start a house cleaning service, most people already have the vacuums and the mops and the brooms and all the cleaning materials. You just need to show up and do the work in exchange for the money. Wouldn't
you have to look at liability insurance?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. You know, you need to talk to your accountant and attorney about that. When you first get started, if your income and your expenses cancel out, because you are a startup, typically if you start up in a situation like that, you're going to earn some money and you're going to invest it back in the business.
Right.
So anything that you retain, and then that's what you're going to pay taxes on. But you do need to consult your attorney on that.
Oh, just thought I...
But you can start the business immediately, come in, provide a service, get paid for it. Most people, if you went into their home, they would have homeowners insurance. So you could have them sign a waiver of liability, which would basically remove that responsibility from you. So there's a lot of ways. Being an entrepreneur is about being creative. It's about coming up with creative solutions. You may need to break the rules, just don't break the law. And so be creative within what you're doing and find a way. That's what entrepreneurs do. We find a way.
Right.
We don't complain about the fact that we don't have liability insurance yet. We get creative and find a way to do it so that we still are protected, and we come up with solutions. We don't whine about it.
Well, probably you're talking
solutions.
a little startup like that probably could, with business cards and simple insurance, could probably get started for less than $1,000.
They could. And if you don't have $1,000, you can get started. You know, a business is not a business until you're actually making money. So don't go out and pay for a bunch of licenses and permits. Go out and get your first job, collect the money, and then go buy your city business license. Again, consult your attorney first. I don't want to get in any trouble here. But you know, if you're starting with nothing, you've got to take action in the world.
Right.
And I would rather see you take action and live a little bit risky. You know, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. I would rather see people take a little bit of risk and do what they can and come up with the money, rather than sit around and collect unemployment or welfare.
Right, right.
I mean, part of the whole idea of this book is to move people from employer reliance to self-reliance. And if you're self-reliant, you can actually make a fortune. You can become wealthy in America. If you're employer reliant, you can make a living. But if you can't be self-reliant or employer reliant, you end up being government reliant or charity reliant. And that's something that, you know, a lot of people don't feel comfortable, because we don't want to, most people want to have the pride that they did something valuable and contributed. We don't want handouts. Most of us don't.
But there are people who really don't want to work for themselves. They really don't. I've talked to people, they don't want to work for themselves at all. They rather just go in and do what they need to do and come home and do what they want to do.
That's fine. You know, to each his own. Again, I really believe, and you know, we talk about the need to fix this problem. The problem is, you know, our educational system does not encourage entrepreneurship.
Oh, no.
So the real solution to this is to put Entrepreneur 101 in the high schools as an optional class. One of the reasons people don't want to have their own business is they were never taught how. The reality is if you're going to put 40 hours a week in, you can do it for someone else and make them rich, or you can put the same 40 hours in for yourself and make a good living.
That's true.
You know, you're going to work one way or the other. Why not collect all the money instead of, you know, buying somebody else's Mercedes while you're driving a Hyundai, when you could be driving the Mercedes yourself?
How do you figure you're going to get into the schools and do this?
Well, the first thing I did is I wrote the book, and I did put a suggested curriculum for the Entrepreneur 101 program in the book.
And what about the colleges? The colleges now are starting entrepreneur programs.
Yeah, you know, there's always been entrepreneur programs on a very small scale, but not as part of the culture. Every American has the opportunity to own their own business, and yet every American, through the traditional programming, has been taught to go out and get jobs. And now we have people marching on Occupy Wall Street saying, where are the jobs? And if these people had the skills, if they learned the basics of entrepreneurship, the basics of sales, the basics of marketing, if they learned a little business law, if they learned how to be creative and come up with creative business solutions, some of those people would start businesses. And what this book does is it builds a bridge. On one side of the bridge is all the people that are starving for jobs.
Right.
On the other side is the entrepreneurs that are the ones that are creating the jobs. So first we need to stop doing all these spirit killers that shrinks this crowd, because the entrepreneur class, in my estimation, is actually a shrinking class.
Oh, really? You really?
Yeah, I really believe that, because as Winston Churchill, I quoted Winston Churchill in the book, when you have 10,000 regulations, people start losing respect for the law. So you got all these people that are afraid, I can't get into business because there's so much political regulation. So we need to make more leniency on the regulation. We need to teach people these skills. And these people that are screaming for jobs, some of them need to jump to the other side and become entrepreneurs, okay, so that they can supply the jobs for those people that want them. If more people are taught how to be entrepreneurs, more businesses will be created, more businesses will thrive, and more jobs will be created, basically bridging the gap so that America would never have a jobless problem ever again.
The regulations are real serious. I mean, because
it's a problem.
I know that it's a big problem in a lot of companies. I had a man on a couple months ago. He said he would never have his business again in California.
And you know, I have 21 spirit killers and 21 spirit builders in the book. Every one of them has good solutions except for excessive regulation. There are answers for that. I wish I could have stronger ones. What I recommend is whatever your business is, locate it in a regulation friendly city or state that is friendly to your type of business. Now, if it's cost prohibitive, then, you know, I hate to say this, but it's true that if it doesn't make sense if you can't operate profitably in the United States, but you could operate profitably in another country, if that's the difference between you making your dream come true and you're not making your dream come true, then I say live your dream and go locate in another country. And I really don't like saying that, but American politicians need to really wake up. You know, wake up, politicians, because what you're doing is you are killing America's entrepreneurial spirit and you are driving jobs out of the country.
I know, and we keep hearing that over and over. When you wrote this book,
yes,
how did you start developing it? When you thought this is a killer, this is a builder, did you plan the book that way?
No, that was I was really stuck because I was putting a book together, and it was going to be on entrepreneurship. And the revelation came when I realized it's all about inspired entrepreneurs. And when that happened, the book flowed a lot more quickly.
Well, one of the ones you talked about was the spirit builders, is making sure you really are aware of where your talents are.
Yes.
You want to elaborate more about that, because I think we're also taught, we're never, maybe I'm talking from my point of view, but the way schools, you know, these are the jobs that are going to make the most money. Let's say we're in the medical field, but you have absolutely no interest in medicine. Now that is insane, to go into something that you have absolutely no interest in.
Absolutely. First, I want to start with a belief that I have. I believe that children are born as geniuses and conditioned into mediocrity. Every one of us is born with magic in us. Every one of us is given talents and gifts from God. We are given so much. We have so much knowledge and skills and abilities that we've learned things our whole life. We've learned to read, we've learned to write. Some of us know how to communicate. Some of us know how to solve problems. Everybody's talents are unique and different. Some of us are artistic, some of us are analytical. But the point is, we all have things that we're good at, and there's things that we do that we actually enjoy. So the number one thing is if you're going to be in business, you should do something that you love. There was a book written in the 70s, I believe it was written in the 70s, called Do What You Love, and the Money Will Follow, which is a great concept. Chapter 7 of that book is, where's the money? So you're doing what you love, but the money's not there. So it's really important that you line up what your passions are with what there's a marketplace need for.
And that's what you talk about in the book, because I think sometimes that's where we get confused. You know, I mean, some people want to be actresses, which is fine, and if you make it, you make it. But you can take those acting skills and become trainers. I mean, there are all kinds of things you can do with those talents that are naturally in front of an audience and just tweak it a little bit.
Yes. And there's a real important concept that it's a sensitivity to the marketplace. Now, Gary Halbert was a man many years ago, who marketing genius, and he had a think tank where there was a bunch of bright marketing people in the room. And he asked a question. He said, if you were going to open a restaurant and you could have one advantage over all other advantages of all other restaurants, what would that advantage be? And he went around the room. The first man said, location, location, location. I would want a great location for my restaurant. So Gary said, okay, that's good. Next person. I would want the best chef. I would want delicious food so people, it would make their mouth water and they would come back over and over. Okay, that's a good answer. And then the next person said, I would want low price. Everybody wants to get a good deal, so they'll come for the low price. He says, okay, that's a good answer. Then he asked the next person, and they said ambience. I would want a comfortable place where people would feel comfortable hanging out and spending money with food. He says, okay, that's a good answer. And then one more person, and the last person said, customer service. I would want to make people feel special. So these are all really good answers. But Gary said, he says, if I had a restaurant, if I could have one advantage over all other restaurants, here's what I'd want. I would want a starving crowd. Okay, because if you have a starving crowd, location doesn't matter. They'll go off the beaten path because they're hungry. If you have a starving crowd, they don't care if it's steak or if it's hot dogs. They're going to eat whatever you're selling. If you have a starving crowd, you know, they don't care about customer service. You could even be rude to them. If you have a starving crowd, they don't care about a comfortable location. You know, it's like they'll sit on the sidewalk and eat. If they're starving, they'll eat. And so that's really a great analogy. It's a metaphor for other businesses. So when you go to create your business, not only do what you love, but what are people starving for? When I wrote this book, I realized that you know, with the presidential election, they're all telling the politicians, we need to create jobs. I realized that the whole Occupy movement, people are starving for jobs. In my experience, I've worked with business owners, and whenever I come in as a sales and marketing coach, as a consultant, and we improve their business, and the business gets busier, they need help. They have to hire people.
Right.
Okay? There is no such thing as a self-made millionaire. The only people that I know that have ever made any kind of wealth have done it through teamwork.
That's true.
And so when your business starts to grow, then you're going to have to hire helpers, and jobs are created. And so this book connected my expertise in helping businesses grow with the starving, what society is really starving for, and that is, where are the jobs? And at some point, you cannot, you know, if you want a dream job, you're going to have to create it for yourself.
That's true. That's true.
Which is in alignment with your initial question about doing what you love.
Well, I think if you hate what you do, you're not going to do well anyway. I mean, if you don't have the talent and skills for certain, whatever you're going to be, if you don't have, you need to have at least basic talents. And if you don't, you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to make money at it.
Well, here's the good news. If you have your own business, you can actually you can schedule your own time and your own activities to do things that you actually enjoy. You can schedule and design your day in a way that's around your own interests and those things that fascinate you and intrigue you and light up your passions. When you have a job working for someone else, you have much less control.
And you're tired when you come home.
Well, you're tired when you come home either way.
But there's good tired and not good
yeah,
tired.
when you're passionate about what you do,
You may be tired, but you're
it's
passionate.
exhilarating.
Right. You don't come in dragging, but when you don't like what you do, that takes so much physical and emotional energy.
Well, I love what I do. You know, I wake up every day and I'm just so grateful that I have the opportunity to work with people that are struggling and help them elevate their wealth. And when I come in and help a business owner and make their, we help the business thrive, it helps them, it helps his family, it creates jobs, it helps the vendors all get more sales, and there's a ripple effect. What I do when I help people in their business, when we come up with a better marketing strategy or a better sales process for the business, so many people are affected in a positive way. I mean, that really warms my heart, and I'm just so grateful that I get to do something that has such a positive impact on so many people.
We're wrapping it up, so you want to tell the audience your name, your website, and your phone number.
Yeah, my name is Joe Nicassio, and my website is rapidresultsmarketing.com, and my phone number is 562-961-3976.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
This is Marlene Gibbs with What Do You Do?
Thank you for watching What Do You Do? If you enjoyed part 1 of Marlene's discussion with Joe Nicassio, keep an eye out for part 2. This program is brought to you by P. Murphy & Associates, successfully providing IT professionals to Southern California businesses.